don't believe you have chat enabled, so everything will be done through the Q&A if you want to ask anything.
Perfect. So put all your questions there and we'll get to them. And thank you for joining on this Tuesday afternoon. It's lovely to have everyone together. And so this is webinar 2 in a series that we're doing called the Host Co-op Community, which is basically our place to build the optimal tech stack for all of you, get advice, and just grow this community so we can eventually meet up in person and just all create the best businesses possible. So if you were here last month, basically Mark and I talked about a direct booking strategy when it came specifically to including experiences and what it was looking like to market those. And this week we brought in Arthur to talk all things StayFi. But to give you some context, so we're not just random people talking at you if you're new, I'm Maddy Rifkin. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Mount. Started my company when I was 12 years old. Fascinating story we can get into another time. And am now kind of a nomadic traveler. So have been building my business while traveling the world. We take the traveler perspective and the guest perspective while we build for the short-term rental industry. And at Mount, we raised over $4 million to get where we are now. And just happy to be here and be in the short-term rental industry with you all. So I'll pass it over to Mark for his intro and we'll get into it.
Yeah, thank you very much. So yeah, it's really good to be back for month 2, and there's been plans behind the scenes of what we're going to do continuously. So it's cool to see. So for those who are not aware who I am, started Boostly in 2016. Over the last 8 years now, we've grown rapidly, all focusing around direct bookings. We do a couple of things, but the main things what we do is we provide websites, training, support. We delve into the world of content and all that cool things, but the main thing of what we're all about is to get everybody to 65% direct bookings. We feel it could be attainable, especially for the people that are in the room. You know, for those that are with one property going up to 20, 25, 30 properties, it can be easily attainable, easily done. And that's what we've been doing for 8 years now. So it's cool to be part of this. Cool that we're able to come back for month 2, and looking forward to what we can do over the course of this year with this monthly chat.
Fantastic. Thanks, Mark. For those that want to keep following the journey and hear about upcoming webinars, what we're going to do with this co-op community and just how we take it forward, really what we've started to do is we're building the cornerstone for all the rental entrepreneurs out there. So people that want to level up their businesses past an Airbnb listing and really take this industry by storm. We'll be building optimal tech and operational strategies, bringing more experts to the table. We're starting with expert-led webinars, so bringing these CEOs to the table. You get to ask your burning questions and keep growing from there. We hope to do some community in-person events in the future. I had the pleasure of doing one in Cabo last year where we brought about 30 hosts together, I want to say. It was a blast. And so how can we just keep doing more of that in-person community network building? So that's what this co-op is all about. We happen to be living here in Facebook. So if you want to join the community, go ahead and scan this QR code. You can join. We post all past recordings of our webinars in there. So you can see webinar number 1. You'll get updates of all the community events taking place, future webinars, ask questions in there that you don't get to ask on the webinars. So anything community related happens there. So go ahead and scan that QR code if you would like. And then we're going to get into it. So I'm going to pass it over to Arthur, who's going to share his screen to talk more about this optimizing your tech stack, but from a direct booking standpoint and what that means with StayFi. So Arthur, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, everybody. And thanks for having me and attending. If you don't know, my name is Arthur Colker, and I am the founder and CEO of StayFi. And StayFi is, well, started out as what I would call a Wi-Fi marketing company. So we brought to the short-term rental industry a technology that we're all have experienced before, which is logging into the Wi-Fi in a location like a hotel, a coffee shop, an airport, and having to provide information in order to gain access. And we brought that solution to the market back in 2019 because we saw there was a gap where vacation rental operators could not easily collect data from not just the booker, but everybody staying in the property. And the Wi-Fi is the one tool that we know everyone will use during the course of the stay. So it's a great touch point to not only collect guest data, but introduce your brand And then from there, we've added all sorts of new technology that I'm going to walk through today to kind of enhance your branding, drive more direct bookings, and increase or decrease your dependence on third-party channels like Airbnb and Vrbo, which is the ultimate objective we're all here to do. So without further ado, I will share my screen and kind of walk you through a little background on StayFi, as well as a little primer about how to get started with email marketing. And then a little bit about a new feature we launched called Homepage that can just really enhance your guest experience, drive incremental revenue, and also engage guests with your brand so that they come back and book direct again and again. So like I talked about before, StayFi's mission, we want to empower every short-term rental operator, whether they have one listing or whether they have 1,000 listings, with the technology to have a vibrant, independent, and most importantly, a more profitable brand. Because we know that as you increase your share of direct bookings and build up your own loyal audience, your business becomes more sustainable and more profitable as you pay less in OTA fees, and you have more leverage and ability to increase your occupancy rate because you have a whole new channel to market to, which is your loyal audience of guests. And so over time, collecting data is a great way to de-risk your business and become more profitable. Because if Airbnb changes their algorithm or Vrbo changes how they charge fees, you're less open to these platforms, causing your business harm when they change things that are totally out of your control. And so the first product we built is this data collection piece. And now we're building on top of that all the marketing tools and guest engagement tools you need to go to the next level to not just collect data, but also monetize that data through rebookings and other things I'll talk about during the course of this presentation. And also because we are a Wi-Fi tool, there are some non-marketing related benefits to using StayFi, things like monitoring your Wi-Fi remotely, being able to get alerted if the internet's offline in any property. We also do occupancy alerting, so we can alert you if there's too many guests in a property. So there are a lot of operational benefits that can protect your homes, improve the guest experience, ensure no one shows up when the Wi-Fi is not working. But today we're really going to be talking about the marketing piece. So just a little overview here. We collect data, we store it all. We also centralize all of the guest data you have from other sources. So I'll talk a little bit more about this later, but we also connect to almost every property management software out there. So not only do we collect data from every guest in your property going forward, we can actually go through all your historical data you've ever collected in your property management software, as well as any future bookings, and pull out any real guest emails in that software to add to our marketing tools. And then within StayFi, we not only do we have email marketing, but we also have text marketing. So we have two different channels that you can use to market your brand and actually automate a lot of this marketing, which is what I'm going to talk about today. So that if you are starting out, or maybe you have a smaller list, how can you do kind of set it and forget it email marketing? So you can invest in building templates one time that are being sent to every single guest that stays with you. So you're not dependent on building new content every month, which can be a headache, especially when you're starting out and your list isn't that big. Wi-Fi alerting is key, so no guests arrive to a property and they find that it's not working. So we'll let you know if there's internet issues anywhere that you have a home or a apartment. And then finally, at the end of the day, we're going to help you build your brand through all these different products so that guests, no matter whether the booker or one of the other people staying there, they all leave knowing your brand, even if they came saying, they booked a quote unquote Airbnb, which is, we know, the common language people use today. They even say that when they booked on Vrbo that they booked an Airbnb, right? So we want to build awareness amongst all guests that booking direct is possible with short-term rentals, not just with hotels, and that actually, because there's no rate parity requirements in the short-term rental industry, there's actually financial benefits to guests when they book directly with you. So how does StayFi work? What does it all look like? Here's just kind of a visual overview of what the guest sees when they get on the Wi-Fi when you use StayFi. They first connect to the Wi-Fi network like they would normally, whatever you name it in StayFi. Then they will get a custom branded template, which can be unique by property or across groups of homes that looks like this, where you can get the key information you need and permission to remarket to those guests. Then when the guest fills in this form, they're redirected to this new product within StayFi called Homepage. So you can give guests all the relevant links to your property right when they log into the Wi-Fi, things like a guidebook, your website, um, upsell partners from Viator or the Hostco or Mount or whoever you like, Minoan, so that all the relevant links to your property are right there when the guest logs into the Wi-Fi. And then finally, because we've now collected their data, you can trigger text, email, other forms of marketing to those guests, and even send this homepage with your upsells to guests automatically too when they log into the Wi-Fi. Here's some case studies. And we work, like I mentioned, with companies of all sizes. So some of these, like Cozy or Heirloom, they have 200 plus properties under management with StayFi, and they are driving, savings millions of dollars using our product, going from 0 to 30+% direct bookings over the course of a year. And then we work with some smaller customers of all sizes. This one on the bottom left is actually in the Czech Republic. They're getting, up to 80% direct bookings. Cottage Stays has around 20 cottages in Ontario. She already had a great direct booking game, was at that 60-70% mark that Mark Simpson mentioned, and now she's actually 100% in her high season thanks to StayFi. So no matter where you are in this book direct journey, whether you're small, big, have a big brand presence, have no brand presence like Cozy, we can help get you on the path to becoming less dependent on those third-party channels. Now let's talk a little bit about email marketing, because that's kind of like the meat of what the StayFi data is used for. The first thing is obviously we got to build an email list, and there's multiple sources that you can source this important data from, and you can use StayFi to gather data from all these places. So number one is obviously the current guests, and that's using the Wi-Fi, like I mentioned before. And this is an example of a splash page that a guest sees when they log into the Wi-Fi. And this will get data from 80 to 90% of all the adult guests staying in your property. You might be wondering about children, kids. We have different, you can put on birth date, 18 over checkbox. Parents usually log in for smaller children on their iPad, right? So you don't have to worry about collecting emails from, 5-year-olds who probably don't even have an email. So all of this is super customizable within the product. It can be unique by home as well. And then guests only do this once per device. So it's not like some annoying systems maybe you've used at a Starbucks or a hotel where every time you go there, you have to log back in. With StayFi, once you log in, you're authorized for 30 days. So guests only do this once per device. Then within StayFi, our email marketing tool, you have the ability to make pop-ups or forms on your website. Because if you're driving traffic to your direct booking website, you want to take advantage of, every possible visitor to your website by collecting their email. And here's an example of a great give get option that someone created using StayFi. So in this instance, you enter your name and email, and then you'll get a guidebook and $100 off coupon emailed automatically to you. So all those kind of automations are easily built within StayFi, where when you receive an email from a certain source, whether it's a pop-up or a form, you can then trigger the value you want to send back to the guest automatically. And that's a great way, if you're spending any money or doing anything to drive traffic to your website, you want to make sure you capture as much value from every person that visits. Even if they don't book at that moment, you want to make sure you capture their information. And then finally, this is an incomplete list, but these are a partial list of all the property managers we integrate with, the software. And that, like I mentioned before, is another great source of guest data. So when you add email marketing to your StayFi account, you connect, let's say, Hospitable, then we will go through all your Hospitable reservations. And if you have any real emails associated with those, we automatically pull them in. We also send data back into each PMS. They typically don't have an email marketing tool, with maybe the exception of Track. But of course, some of them can tell you, like Guesty, for instance, if one of the guest emails we send back ends up booking directly with you, even if they were an ancillary guest, they'll come up as a repeat booker. So there's some nuances and differences between each PMS, but the bottom line is, any valuable data you have there that you've collected already is instantly available to market to within StayFi, and we'll pull in any future real data you collect from your property management software. Email marketing in StayFi, kind of like, what is our tool like? It's going to be similar to any tool like you've used in the past, whether it's MailChimp, constant contact, etc. We are actually built on top of Campaign Monitor, which is a commonly used marketing solution. So that's kind of the backbone of the product. And then we've added a bunch of vacation rental specific features on top of it. So that's why we chose to partner with Campaign Monitor, because it allows us to start with a great base email marketing software, but then it's customizable enough that we can add a bunch of content on top of it that makes it relevant and specific to the short-term rental industry, right? We've also partnered with an agency called Switchback within there, and they're kind of our email marketing agency of record. So there is the option if you go to Switchback services within StayFi. Let's say you have a larger business and you don't want to do email marketing, you want to outsource it to a third-party firm. Switchback can do all your email marketing for you, and they exclusively work with short-term rental companies. So if you want to outsource it, they're a great partner that can run all of your marketing campaigns for you. And what's cool about this product is it's actually free for up to 200 contacts, and you get unlimited send. So as long as you connect your property management software or have one StayFi access point live in your properties, the email tool is free. And then once you go over 200 contacts, there's additional charges depending on how many contacts are in your database. So it's a great way to get started with email because you can play around with it because it starts out free. It's going to be cheaper than MailChimp or Campaign Monitor if you went with them directly for the same number of contacts. And then we have all the drag and drop pre-built templates you need that are built for short-term rentals. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of like what are the strategies you should be setting up in your email marketing tool and what are kind of like types of content. And there's basically two types of buckets that email marketing can fall into. One is automation, customer journey, drip campaigns are all kind of names that you may have heard. And these are really important, especially when you start out. We see a lot of people make the mistake of they start collecting emails, they don't do anything with them, and then they want to send an email 6 months, a year from now, and then they see a very high unsubscribe rate because a lot of those people have forgotten who you are. So it's really important that once you start collecting emails, whether it's on your website through StayFi, through your PMS or some other source, that you start engaging with them. And a way to guarantee that you do this is through an automation. So essentially, whenever you receive an email from a certain source, you decide, I'm going to send these series of emails over this cadence. Let's say, one email every 30 days for 6 months. And that way, for 6 months, every guest is getting a piece of content. And they're not going to forget who you are, so that when you do want to send out a one-time campaign with a promotion, a new property you've launched, you're not going to see a high unsubscribe rate, and people are going to engage with that content because they remember who you are. So one-time campaigns, like I just alluded to, is the other main type of content people send through emails, and that you can think of like a postcard or a newsletter, right? All sorts of content I'll talk about that you can include in those emails, because that's another area where people struggle with, especially if they only have, let's say, one property. Like, what am I going to send every month, right? Because there's not so much going on. So we'll talk about different strategies you can employ so that you have something relevant to your audience to talk about in your emails. Where to start with automation? The most important one is if you use StayFi, or even if you collect like through a newsletter, right, is an automation after that collection point. So automating an email that after you collect their email that goes out and says, hey, introduce your brand, who you are, what you're all about. Assume the guest thinks you're Airbnb, right? Especially if we're collecting information from non-bookers. So you really have to emphasize, that you're the actual provider and why they have such a great hospitality experience, and that Airbnb obviously was just the website that they booked on. Then some great things to include, especially in a guest Wi-Fi welcome email, are things like local recommendations, a list to a guidebook to that homepage product I mentioned, your local favorite, things to do in the area, information about the home, because guests are typically in the property on the first day. Then what we see is like a post-departure email. So like 10 days later, 7 days later, something like that, you can send another email that says, hey, thanks for staying with us. Give us any feedback. And then, of course, most importantly, here's why you should book directly with us if you want to come back. And if you do have other properties, that might be a time to emphasize, hey, here are the other 3 properties we manage if you're interested in returning. Other people ask for referrals at that point. So you can even ask, make sure you explicitly, say like, hey, if you know anyone else that wants to travel to XYZ area, make sure that they contact us here because they can get a better rate than on Vrbo or Airbnb. And if you're not driving differences in rates, then of course you can also have additional amenities or, items you give people as a promotional value to book direct as opposed to saving money by a rate. So that's really up to you. But making sure there's some rationale about why guests would want to book directly versus going through what they may think that they trust more, like Airbnb, is important. Other automations that you can set up within StayFi pretty easily are things like booking anniversary, or something like 9 months post stay, you can send another email. So you can, based on the collection date, automate future emails. So you can say, hey, 9 months after this guest stay, let them know like, hey, if you want to return, here's a reminder to book directly with us. And, you'll save money versus going through a third-party channel. Here's an example of an actual automation email and what the builder looks like within StayFi. So this is with a customer called Juniper Holiday and Home, which is in Michigan, and they're a property manager. They started with, I think, like 20 properties with StayFi, but I think they now manage over 50, so they're growing pretty quickly. And here's what they're presenting when someone joins the Wi-Fi. So here you can see on the left that they have an email that looks very personalized. This is welcome to the Dakota. What's cool about in the StayFi email builder is we have the ability to insert a bunch of custom fields. So this one is just built with welcome to property name. So they kind of build it off one template, and because they use these custom fields, they can still make it property specific. And you can even insert links to the guidebook for this home or the homepage for this home so that, all the relevant information is presented automatically based on the property the guest is staying in. And you don't have to make like 20 versions of the same email with different properties, right? So you can use custom fields to basically customize each email for the property the guest is in, all based on one template you built. Here, they've really emphasized their concierge services. So you can see like in the first big block after the introduction in the email is all these things that you can book through them. They don't use a third-party tool to do these bookings. They built it all themselves. So they have all these local offers that you can book as a guest. And obviously, maybe you've shared this with the booker previous to them staying, but maybe the 7 other people staying in this property, that person never shared with, right? So this way you're now presenting these upsells and concierge services to the other 7 people staying in the property so that you can market those things and get incremental revenue during the stay. And then finally here, they have this little modal about, dreaming about your next vacation. And because they manage many properties, they really want people to go into this website, look at the other cool homes they manage, which are in, could be in a few different areas within Michigan. So people get excited about coming back. And we know with a lot of these traditional vacation rental destinations, like in the Panhandle or here in Michigan on the beach, these are things that, families go to every year or twice a year or 3 times a year, like 3 times over the course of the summer. So, knowing your guests and like, do they return to this destination often? You really want to start building that relationship here. And then on the right here, this is what the actual builder within StayFi looks like. You can see here it's very visual and simple. So they enter the Wi-Fi welcome segment. So basically they sign up for the Wi-Fi, they get this email, but then you can see within 5 days, now they're sending another email. They are more sophisticated. So they're sending this like, did someone open this email? If they didn't, I'm going to send it again. And if they did, then I'll wait another 5 days and send a different email. So you get very sophisticated in these kind of like logical branches of making sure non-openers get the email again as opposed to regular folks. But that's, you can start with something simple and then add more complexity over time. And then here is what a monthly newsletter looks like from Juniper. So automations is definitely where you want to start. And then once your list has, 1,000, 2,000 subscribers, that may be at the point where you say, hey, it's worth sitting down and cranking out a monthly newsletter to that whole audience that's sent outside of the automation. And here are some pretty common things that someone sends. So here you can see in the middle, they have, 4 properties. They talk about the concierge services. A key point here that I want to make is upfront. You can see their second piece is 5-star property management services. So when someone joins, they also have email sign up on their website, right? And when they collect emails there, they don't know if someone's a homeowner or a prospective guest. So when they send this newsletter, it's going to a broader audience of both potential homeowner clients and guests. So they kind of have this one newsletter to cover both audiences, so that, you know, they're always not just booking properties, but also their property management services. So that if someone who's getting this or signed up on their website happens to be a homeowner in the relevant area, they can also inquire about property management services, which is really important when it comes to growing your business if you are a property manager. Sweet. So that is everything to do with email marketing. Now I'm going to switch over to Homepage, which is a new product within StayFi, which I just mentioned before, which is just a new way to engage guests after they log into the Wi-Fi, and also a very cool way to send relevant information to guests before they stay. So you can think of this product as like a link tree, if you've ever seen one of those, for your short-term rentals. And each property gets a unique homepage automatically. And on here, you can again place things like upsells, essential guest resources, and custom buttons. And then obviously information to book again to really nail home to guests that you are a professional short-term rental operator, whether a property manager or an owner operator, as well as generate additional revenue through upsells and, you know, really build your, you know, differentiate your brand from Airbnb and Vrbo. Within Homepage, we have two upsell partners that are like you can sign up for within it. One's the Hostco and one's Viator. But then, of course, you can add any other upsell tool, whether it's Mount or Minoan, or which is more about selling like goods that you feature in the home, as well as in the case of something like Juniper, you may have your own concierge page you want to link to. So you can link to all of those things. And through all of them, of course, you get a rev share, which obviously depends on the partner. The host tool is cool because you can sell your own goods and services, things like early check-in, late checkout, extra guest, pet fees, mid-stay cleans, pool heating. So we see customers making anywhere between, you know, $100 to $500 a month of incremental revenue through selling their own goods and services through the Hostco. And then Viator is owned by TripAdvisor, and with that you get an 8% rev share on any tours and activities booked there. And they are global, so you can, you know, if you're in Spain or wherever in the world, right, you can feature tours and activities right in the homepage. So you can see here is how it actually loads. If you look at that image there of the phone, it actually, when the guest clicks on this tile, these will just appear there. And if they click on that and book within 30 days, you'll get an 8% commission. So, and you can choose which activities are there or have the top selling ones presented. So any upsell tool that you use, you know, StayFi is a great way to get that tool in front of every guest, because every guest will see this when they log into the Wi-Fi, right? And then when it comes to essential resources, if you use a guidebook like Hostfully, Folio, TouchStay, again, it's kind of like you're investing in this tool. Now the homepage, because every guest will go there after logging to the Wi-Fi, it's a great way to present that in front of every single guest, so you reduce inbound questions or calls from guests because they can get all the relevant information about the home there. And then what's cool is that all of these homepages are standalone websites for each property that you can share outside of just the Wi-Fi login experience. So within StayFi, in our email and SMS tool, you can dynamically insert the homepage for that property into a welcome automation. So a good example would be guest logs into the Wi-Fi, you text them through StayFi a link to the homepage for that property, so they have a persistent link on their phone to all the information, whether it's guidebook, upsells, your website, so they can access all of that during the stay and centralize all that information and make sure it's in front of every single guest during the stay. That wraps up my presentation, guys. So I think we can open up for Q&A.
Nice. 268 unread emails, Arthur. You're a very popular man.
Oh, yes.
All right. So that was great. And yeah, homepage has been one that I was very lucky to get a little sneak peek at STI WealthCon. And I know that a lot of people are talking about it, which is awesome. At Nashville, we were staying at a property that used StayFi. And so I gave my email up, and the place that they sent me to was the website that I made the booking on. It didn't really make sense for me being the customer journey. So I have a homepage to send people to. It's a lovely natural progression. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing some results from that. So we've got a lot of people in here, and there's going to be some questions. If anybody's got any questions regarding StayFi or homepage or anything that's up and coming, please do drop them in. But Maddie, is there anything you wanted to add on top of that, or Arthur, is there anything you wanted to sort of mention on top of that? That'd be cool.
I was going to ask, since we have two very good book direct people on this call, being Mark and Arthur, how do you guys work together? Like those that use Boostly and those that use StayFi, is there a way to kind of work them together so that it creates extra magic, if you understand that?
Well,
Yeah.
I'll start. I'll say a few things. So one is obviously the quality of the website that you send guests to from whatever marketing you're doing, whether it's email marketing, Wi-Fi login, etc., matters a lot. And the PMS white labeled websites that they offer are typically pretty basic and may not engender the level of guest trust that you want. So having a professional website, I don't know if you have stats on this, will obviously increase your conversion rate and also allow you to present more things about your brand outside of just, most of them are just like a very simple booking engine. That there's no like about page or like information about who you are and why they should trust you and how long you've been operating and your backstory and all that stuff that makes you build a brand, right? So they're not really designed for that, I say in general. And then the other thing is obviously being able to collect emails on the website is important, especially if you're investing in any marketing, right? Because you want to capitalize on any of the data on any visitors to your website that you're sending there.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think we would have any property management software provider in this room, and they would regularly admit, and they do very openly say that the website is not a key element of their business model. I'd love to know the first PMS that provided a free website, because then everybody bounced on top of it. So it was just a nice sales tactic to say, hey, you'll get a free website when you join our software. It is very limited, as we all know, but it may be ideal if you've literally got no budget. I always say it's a nice scrappy start off point. And then as you grow in your business, as you grow in your revenue, when you grow in your budget, then that's when you come to a Boostly. And I would say that's when you would come to a Boostly. That's when you come to a StayFi. That's when you'd start using Mount and these other third-party providers. So it's all about where you are in your journey. And this is why the co-op is being created, because when you are getting going, whether you're 6 months in property one, looking to get to 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever the model is you're doing, it's very overwhelming with the choice that's being made out there. And so when Maddie came to us with the idea, I was like, this is ideal, because we all see questions in Facebook forums, on social media, wherever it may be, about people asking for which tech should we use? What's the tech stack? And, we have a podcast series at Boostly called Behind the Host. And it's one of the questions we ask is, what are you using? And the common thread is every 10 people that we ask that question to, we get, 9 different answers. So we just wanted to come together and bring experts in who are, the core of our business model at Boostly. I can't speak for Maddie or Arthur, but we look predominantly for that 1 to 20, 25 sort of ratio of hosts of properties. And the reason why we do so is because it's I always say the 1 to 10 people who've got 1 to 10 properties have been sort of forgotten about for so long in this industry. Most, there's a time when specific companies wouldn't even talk to you if you went up to them at a booth or a trade show unless you had at least 10 properties under your belt. And so this is why we put this together. And everybody that we bring in, we all work together nicely. We can all bounce off each other. And so one of the questions in there is, I assume that HostCo and Mount can coexist together. Absolutely. Everybody here is about collaboration. So, and as Arthur said, the most important thing is when you're going to send them to a specific website from whatever marketing you've been doing, whether it's text, email, or whatever, you want to make sure that you're sending them to a page or a website that you are confident that you can turn a looker into a booker, that you can be proud to send them to. And that is why, we honestly started doing what we did properly for doing websites back in 2018, 2019, because we saw that a lot of people weren't proud of where we're sending them to. So yeah,
I see a lot of questions now, especially a lot with StayFi. So happy to go through those.
Yeah, Arthur, we'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah. So can you explain, I'll read the question, then I'll answer it. Can you explain how to keep the homepage persistent, not just on the first login, force guests to go to the homepage every time they use the internet. Fortunately, right now we don't have that ability. So that's why I'd recommend, especially the texting tool. You can do it in email and text, but I think the text is the best one because text messages are very easily accessible on the phone. It's also like a very valuable thing to send the guest, right? So within the text marketing tool within StayFi, we have a text message called the welcome text, which is when they log into the Wi-Fi, it sends a text. And then in there, there's a bunch of merge fields you can insert, but you can insert the URL to the homepage. So it could say, hey, welcome to property name. Here's a link to, everything you know about the home and amenities, and then it will insert that link there. So that's what I would recommend. You can also insert that link in your welcome email if you're sending a welcome email. The question about host co and mount coexisting, 100%. I see home pages with like Minoan host and mount, right? So people use those products for different things. A lot of people use, let's say, the host co for early check-in. Then they might even change it to say like buy early, late checkout, and they might send people to just the host co page in the pre-stay PMS messaging. So people use those products, and they obviously have different partners and different options, and Viator has different options, right? And not every location is going to have like partners from like Viator doesn't have stuff in some places, but then there is stuff in the host co and vice versa, right? So I definitely would take a look at the full range of options and see like what makes sense for your location, because they'll have different types of inventory in different places. And then some of them might give you more of a rev share than others too. So that's like another consideration too. So there's, lots of things that you can look at there. And then, Minoan was the other one, which is interesting just if you want to sell, you can basically have links to sell like the goods in the property, and they also can get you those goods at a discounted price, which is interesting one to look at as well. Those StayFi email website collector, it does connect to Boostly. We have different options, like the pop-up is just like code that you paste into the header. And then you can even use, I don't know if do you guys use some of those like widgets? I forget, like there's a form widgets, but there's basically multiple ways to do it depending on how you want to collect.
100%. Yep. I think basically, if you just think like Jeremy, you asked that question, is just like MailChimp, with MailChimp, they give you that little bit of code that you can put on a website, and then it will send that information to wherever you want it to go. So it's like, it's the same, it's just different strokes, basically.
Yeah. So within StayFi, if you use us, it's a little bit buried. It's basically when you go to an audience or list within StayFi, there's like this collection form section, and then you can decide like, do I want it to be a pop-up? It can even be like a standalone web page that you link to, or it can be like an inserted form. So you can have pop-up, form, separate landing page, all three options, and then you can also style them to make it look more like your brand. And then there also are some like WordPress widgets that integrate with Campaign Monitor. And since Campaign Monitor is like the back end tool, anything that integrates with Campaign Monitor will integrate with StayFi. But the pop-up is definitely the most popular and easiest to install because it's just a code that you paste into the header, and you don't have to like figure out where to stick the form in the website.
This is like, I was going to say very quickly for those who don't know what header or footer means or code, this is one of the things that we do at Boostly. You just send us you send us those fancy things that you see in front of you, and we just sort it for you, which is again one of the benefits instead of going with a free PMS site. You may not be able to put them on there. So yeah,
a lot of the PMSs you can't insert code, and then the other big drawback is Google Analytics. They don't have e-commerce tracking. I say that is the biggest one as you get more sophisticated. Is you need Google Analytics e-commerce tracking to measure like not just the traffic, but did they make a booking? And I don't think any PMS website has that built in. So super important stuff. That, as you grow, this is if you do the marketing yourself or you have a person, that's an area if you're not familiar with, you'll just, get more comfortable over time, as it's definitely, you can spend an hour and like get the basics of Google Analytics down and understand like what's happening in your website. Someone asked if they're a new customer and they use Logify and their website's being built by Boostly. So you could get the information within Logify. Are you able to get the email information from Airbnb Vrbo and Booking? So when you connect StayFi to Logify, we will go through all your historical reservations, and any reservation with a real email will pull that in. Unfortunately, for like Airbnb, there'll be no emails associated with those bookings unless if Lodgify has a way to get them through some like automated messaging, which I know like OwnerRes does and is pretty successful. They may not, I'm not totally sure. Verbone booking, sometimes there's emails, sometimes there's not. And then of course, if you have historical direct bookings, there'll be emails. Or if you added the emails yourself because you collected them another way. So I see big differences between PMS, and I probably should at some point publish this data of some PMS just seem a lot better at getting the booker's emails than others because they have some automated request to get that information from the booker. And then obviously StayFi is still providing a ton of information from the non-booking guests, which if you have large properties could be 5, 10, 15, 20 people per reservation. So if you have real emails there, we'll pull them in. Sometimes there can be a lot, sometimes there's very few. It just depends on the PMS and how many bookings you've had and what source they came from. So StayFi, someone asked about like how the StayFi setup works in terms of Wi-Fi. It's a great question. Today, StayFi works with one brand of Wi-Fi equipment called Ubiquiti Unify, which we will sell to you. And then you plug it into your existing router. It broadcasts a new guest network in your property, and that's the guest network that will provide the splash page. And then you can actually keep your existing internet running in the background if you want to and keep all your home devices on there. It's really up to you. Someone asked, they have a very like large property with 8 routers. If you say works with access points and router throughout the home, there's a chance that you may already have Ubiquiti Unify. I'd say it is the most commonly professionally installed hardware in homes and small multifamily buildings like motels. If you have Ubiquiti Unify already, it will integrate with StayFi and we can integrate with your third-party hardware. If not, unfortunately, you'll have to either supplement or replace those and purchase a similar amount of devices to cover that property. So it just depends on the current hardware you have. If you want to use StayFi, we can then help you get the right amount of equipment for that very large property if you don't have compatible hardware. Someone asked, they say they can get they use OwnerRes, and so like I mentioned before, OwnerRes seems very good at getting emails from bookers. Is having StayFi Wi-Fi still beneficial? It depends. So if you rent small condos would have 2 guests on average, and you're getting all the bookers' emails because you use OwnerRes and they have that ability to get that, maybe the Wi-Fi isn't that important, and you can just use, let's say, our email marketing tool, right? That's totally fine. Say the Wi-Fi is beneficial is if you have a lot of adult guests in your property that you also want to collect data from. Also, if you have issues with Wi-Fi in terms of outages or concerns about occupancy alerts, there's those other Wi-Fi monitoring benefits. We have customers that the main reason they got StayFi is the data collection is cool, whatever, but they actually wanted a cloud-based Wi-Fi management system so they can monitor the internet across a ton of properties. So this depends on what your priorities are and also how much incremental data is there to collect outside of the booker and is that valuable to you, right? So that's how I would assess that for yourself. Do you get any pushback from returning guests who do not need to log in while putting in StayFi? So like I mentioned, the authorization is 30 days. So if someone come back a year later, I don't think they're going to be that upset that they have to enter in their information again. And it's nice because we don't have it right now, but in the future, we're going to be offering more analytics around return guests. So we definitely want to know when people return because we want to actually give you that analytics and data to show you, hey, these are all the return guests you had this year, and this is when they stayed last, this is when we collect their data. So more of that internal analytics are coming within StayFi, so that data can be really valuable and useful, especially if they come back like with a new iPhone, right? We can't just use the ID of the device to determine who they are. So yes, but I would say I haven't heard any pushback. And then you can always customize the opt-in, opt-out buttons on the splash page. I typically recommend people pre-check the marketing opt-in with guests having the ability to uncheck it. So that typically, if guests don't want to be marketed to, they have the ability to opt out, right? So we typically very rarely hear about guests complaining about having to go through the splash page process to get online because it's something that they've encountered in most other hospitality environments they've been to before. Is the Boostly CRM in competition with StayFi Marketing? I would say probably they are. No, I don't know. I don't know that much about Boostly CRMs. You tell me, Mark. Are we competing with each other or not?
Nah, I mean, you can use it coincided easy. I mean, basically what we're doing behind the scenes, we've got an email schedule tool, we've got a social media schedule tool, but it is very much in its infancy. Again, you can use both. When you join Boostly, it literally comes as part of the package. Whether you use it or not is up to you. I think one of the things that we really want to get across here is that everybody that we bring into here, there is no competition. It's all a collab. We should have called it the STR collab because it literally everybody that we bring in here, we're not like, we don't see anybody as competition. We want to collaborate because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that you, Jeremy and Katrina and Blake and Steve and Colin and everybody else in the room have got options available on how to build out your tech stack in 2024 for your business to make sure that you succeed. So whether you want to throw all the emails in through Campaign Monitor, which is obviously what StayFi are using, if you want to use the one that we're doing, we're basically white labeling Go High Level over here. I mean, it's totally up to you. We've got the templates, we've got all of that cool stuff going on, and we've got the AI tool in the background that helps you put it all together. Whether you use it or not, it's totally up to you.
Yeah, like for my standpoint is there's not as you guys talk about, there's not one right tech stack for everybody. It depends on the complexity of the tools you want to use, how sophisticated of a CRM do you really need, et cetera, right? So there's no one right configuration. So, just like upsell tools or email tools, we're really the only Wi-Fi tools. So sorry, there's not that many others to look at least that specialize in this industry. Although there are tools that are great for cafes, there's tons of companies that do Wi-Fi marketing in cafes, stadiums, hotels, restaurants, and people have tried to adopt those to short-term rentals as well, right? So you definitely do your research and due diligence and just figure out, not only does this tool have the features I want, but do I have the internal expertise within my team to use it? And so obviously as tools increase in complexity, it might take more time to master, right? So those are all things to balance of like, what is your internal bandwidth to do this, and what complexity or features does this have that will make this easier or harder for me to use? Sadly, right now, Katrina, we don't have WhatsApp. It's just SMS, although we can SMS any phone number, no matter which country it is. It's based on a credit system, so you only buy credits for what you want to send. For US and Canadian phone numbers, it's just one credit is one send. Then there's a group of countries, including the UK, where it's 2 credits to send, and then like basically any other country is 3 credits to send to one of those phone numbers. So you can send it. I think in the future we'll have other options like WhatsApp, but right now it's just text. Is there a VA to customize all the pages, text, emails, sending StayFi? No, right now it's all self-service. So there's, anyone can sign up for StayFi and go through the process. There is a whole onboarding flow that makes it very simple. It may seem complicated, like, oh my God, I have to do 10 splash pages and 10 home pages. If we integrate with your PMS, we actually pull in all the images, like pre-fill all the names. So, and it's all built on like one template. So you have like one homepage template, one splash page template, and then we have this very easy to use like spreadsheet where you can either like import the image from the PMS or upload it yourself. So the process to actually set up, even if you have to set up 100 splash pages and home pages, is very simple because you kind of like decide on what it's going to look like for all of them. And then you have this very easy way to customize it for each specific home. And we'll pull in as much information as we can from your PMS to do that all for you. Next one is about other hardware providers. Yes, we are working on Ruckus. We have a customer that really wants Ruckus, so that will be the next one. And then, yes, we do have other other hardware providers we'll add as well. Most of those are going to be we're not going to sell them, and they're probably not going to be appropriate for single family homes. That's really why we went with Ubiquity. They're going to be more for people that already have professionally installed access points in, let's say, a motel or a multifamily building where they want to integrate their existing equipment, because those products are even less designed for like a single family home environment. High level roadmap items for 2024. Yeah, we're working on a few new cool things, although we're not really ready to announce them yet. But basically, I'd say the biggest one is like a next version of email. So right now, like you saw, you really have the ability to drive whatever emails you want to send through StayFi, and we have a bunch of guides about how to set up automations, etc. The next version is going to look a little bit more like Klaviyo, if you've ever used that, which is like an email tool built for Shopify stores. So basically, we're going to predefine a bunch of emails you should be sending and have a wizard to help you build them and get all the relevant information even from your PMS. So we're going to make the email creation and sending process so simple that you just plug in, kind of like fill in certain fields, and we'll basically create everything for you. That's the biggest barrier we see when we talk to customers or send out a survey of users is, okay, I want to do email. I just like don't know what to do. And even with all the guides we have, people still have to do it themselves. So we want to build these wizards to basically build everything for you, and you just answer a few simple questions. And of course, you'll still have the ability to customize everything if you want to be more sophisticated. But we want to make that super easy for everybody to do, no matter their level of comfort when it comes to email.
No plans for any AI robots to take over the back end of StayFi.
There is already like an AI email builder, because Campaign Monitor has one. So there's like already a thing that you can put in, like, hey, I want my email to say this, and it will just write it for you. And then you can like say I want it shorter, longer, more informal, formal, right? So they have like a ChatGPT widget. But I'd say like what our users need that's a little different is more like, I need to send an email. Like an example would be like, I want to send an email that features all of my properties that have open availability next weekend. And then it will just build that for you, right? So that's kind of the more direction we're heading. So it's very relevant to our industry. I have 3 properties. Can you explain how CRM works for collecting emails from StayFi, booking, blah, 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 blah. So within our email tool, right, it's pretty simple. I wouldn't call it a CRM. A CRM would be more like you're capturing their historical preferences, why they booked with you. I'd say that's probably something more like Mark's tool could accomplish, where ours is more of a simple email tool. I didn't mention it within StayFi, but we also connect with a bunch of third-party tools, including Go High Level, which there's a few people that have stuff like that. So you can send all the emails you collect within StayFi to Go High Level, as well as tools like ActiveCampaign, HubSpot, Salesforce, etc. So if you already use a third-party tool that you know how to use, you can also use StayFi and send all the data there automatically. But I'd say if you have 3 properties, you probably don't need to think in terms of a CRM unless if they're very high end. Just because, you do the basics first, like start sending an email and set up an automation. And then I'd say get more sophisticated. That's the other barrier I see to people starting is they want to, they put the perfect ahead of just getting anything done. And they think too complex in terms of like what's achievable in the short term. So I think, if you can set up a monthly newsletter and automation, that's where I would start. And then think about how you want to layer in more complexity, targeting, segmentation as you go along. But don't make the perfect the enemy of the good, right? Do you recommend waiting on Boostly to finish our website, or could this be started with an owner res website? Of course, yeah. So because we're marketing to return guests for the most part within StayFi, there's a higher level of trust between the guest and you. So if you start with the owner res websites, which are fine and they work, right? They have a decent booking engine. That's good enough, and you can still get bookings through that. Obviously, the Boostly will help improve that and also help your credibility with non-repeat guests. But because we're doing mostly repeat travel, the website is relatively less important than if you were advertising to totally new people that have never heard of you, where you need to establish a much higher level of trust. But obviously, a more professional website will just improve your results overall. I would also just say another good place to start is actually offline bookings in a way. So sending plain text emails explaining who you are from a first person standpoint, especially if you're on the smaller side, just be like, hey, this is Richard. I manage the, Turtle Inn, whatever it's called. Just so like we have our own website, or you can just email me like the dates you want to come back, and you can actually save money versus Airbnb or whatever. That type of approach works really well on a small scale, because it has the feeling as if you just like wrote that email to them on Gmail, and it has very high deliverability and open rates. So that's just one other way. If you're not comfortable with like pushing the website first, you can just push yourself first and have them communicate with you, then send the link to the website to book. And then, of course, when you have a Boostly website and you're more confident in your brand presence, then you can start sending people there en masse, and you'll get, a higher degree of conversion rate when you do that.
Absolutely. I think we made it through all the questions, if I'm correct.
Yeah,
that was a lot of questions.
That's like a marathon there.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. I know that went a little longer than I had promised, but I think it was well worth it because we got some amazing questions out there and answered. So I put this up here on the screen in case you missed it in the beginning, but this is where our community is going to live, where we will put this recording and the one Mark and I did last month, and then all the future recordings so you can take a look. You can ask each other questions. We'll keep posting updates about this community as it grows. If you want to see anything else from us, put it in the Facebook group as well. And we just want to continue to see this grow. So thank you for taking an hour out of your day to come and meet with us. Hopefully it was valuable, and hope to see you next time. Mark, Arthur, anything else you guys want to say?
Yeah, if you just want to learn more about StayFi, you can just go to stayfi.com. And if you want to book a demo, you can go to the demo page and book a demo with one of our reps. Or if you feel adventurous, you can just sign up for StayFi and get started, because there's no contracts, commitments, minimums. Anyone can just go there and create an account and look around before they even pay anything at all.
Lovely. Yeah, and like this is very much going to be community driven. So if there's a specific person that you want us to bring into the next round, then please do let us know. We this is not going to be the last one. It's going to be very much you tell us who you'd like, and then we will go out and find it. And obviously on the next one, we'll hopefully all come back. Arthur would love to have you back as well. And we want to sort of bring in like a couple of aspects, like talk about what we're noticing over the past month in the industry, and sort of start to share those views and really just keep coming back. And who knows where this sort of evolves to. Like Maddie was saying, could potentially have organize some in-person meetups and really make this a thing. So please do tell everybody about it. If the next time that we announce that we're doing something, please do share the link. Appreciate everybody taking time out of their day. I've even seen Jodie Sterling, who I know is in Australia, so it must be very early over for her in the morning. So really do appreciate you all. So yeah, thanks for being part of it again, and thanks for Maddie for coming up with the idea.
Absolutely. And Jeremy, I got you the link in the Q&A. So if you guys can't scan the QR code right now, the link to the Facebook group is in there as well. Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. See you guys.
See ya.